Good morning, everybody. How is everyone doing today? Hopefully, well. It is a Thursday, 2 days before the weekend. Hopefully, everybody is going to be doing something fun this weekend, like sleeping, because that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be sleeping. I might even sleep today. Been tired, just tired all the time. Tired. In any event, people, let's wrap this stuff up with Mr. Joshua, shall we? Um, Last time we left off, we talked about the issue that Joshua ran into with the rebellion of Israel by taking the forbidden things from the fight that they had with the enemy. And we talked about how it affected his leadership, the outcome of battles, and what disobedience can really do. So we're going to kind of wrap up his story. Um, and Let me see if I can find this here. Because what we're going to encounter here is a whole new concept of what it means to follow. Um, Joshua had a couple of things that he had to endure as the leader. I can't say it was more than Moses, but um, it was a lot different for sure. So we'll read in chapter 8, first of all, um, and then we'll go to the last book, last chapter of it. So let me bring that up real quick here. Now, Joshua, after the whole issue with stoning um, happened and burning his body, he renews the covenant that was made between God and the Israelites. And in verse 30, it says, "Now Joshua built an altar to the Lord of Israel in Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the children of Israel, as it was written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of whole stones over which no man has wielded an iron tool. And they offered on it burnt offerings to the Lord and sacrificed peace offerings. And there, in the presence of the children of Israel, he wrote on the stones a copy of the law of Moses, which he had written. Then all Israel, with their elders and officers and judges, stood on either side of the ark before the priests, the Levites, who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord, the stranger as well as he who was born among them. Half of them were in front of Mount Gerizim, and the other half of them were in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded before, that they should bless the people of Israel. And after he read all the words of the law, the blessings and the cursings, according to the law, all it was written in the book of the law, there was not a word of all that Moses has commanded, which Joshua did not read before all the assembly of Israel, with the women, the little ones, and the strangers who were living among them. The reason I wanted to concentrate on that particular portion was there is value in following a system that works. But not only that, what we keep seeing throughout all of Joshua's um, tenure as leader is obedience. It was one of the few things that Moses, his eventual, the way he ended, eventually did not succeed in fully. His not making it to the promised land was due to not fully doing what God said. But there is value in following the things that were put before you and the things that work. In renewing this covenant, Joshua did exactly what he was supposed to do in the manner he was supposed to do it for the person he was supposed to do it for. The other good thing about what happened here is that the law was then reiterated in the minds of the people. Today, we have a very hard time reading. We also have a hard time just doing it. What we like to do is take pieces that we agree, expunge the things that we don't agree with, call the things we agree with truth, and call the things we agree with right, and call the things we agree with from God, and the rest of it, he didn't really, expound on that. So I'm not even, if you don't agree with it, it's not fully biblical. If you agree with it, God said it. That's the new way of people reading the book. Joshua, there was not a word of all that Moses had commanded which Joshua did not read before all the assembly of Israel. All of it. He didn't nitpick, he didn't parse, he did none of that. He read all of it. Now, before the end of the book, the promise that God had made to Israel came to fruition. Um, and this is what it says. This is in chapter 21, the very last three verses. So the Lord gave to Israel all the land which he had sworn to give to their fathers, and they took possession of it and dwelt in it. The Lord gave them rest all around, according to all he had sworn to their fathers. And not a man of all their enemies stood against them. The Lord delivered all their enemies into their hand. Not a word failed of any good thing which the Lord had spoken to the house of Israel. All came to pass. Now, again, not a scholar, but when God said he promised something, and then he said he fulfilled that promise, I'm still trying to figure out where our issue is in listening. Now, I have to believe one of two things is becoming true, okay? And I'll come back to Joshua when I open this box here. We either believe what God is saying, has said, he said will happen, said is happening, said has happened. We either believe it or we don't. I don't recall any middle ground in a promise of God. I don't recall seeing, hearing, witnessing any middle ground. Joshua had no middle ground. None. When God told him to go do something, he went and did it. Unlike a lot of followers today, I hear so many theologians try to they'll read a portion of the book, okay? And the book will say something that seems impossible to them. Very impossible. Okay? Like this verse. Hold on. I'm going to read this, okay? And what I want people to okay, let's just read it. Then I'll ask the question. So when they continued asking him, he lifted himself up and said to them, "He that is without sin among you, cast him first. Let him cast the first stone at her." And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And when they had heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even to the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Jesus had lifted up himself and saw no one and saw none but the woman, he said to her, "Where are those who accused you? Hath no man condemned you?" She said, "No man, Lord." And Jesus said unto her, "Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more." Now, put on your Joshua hat real quick and answer me this question. Did God say, "Go and sin no more"? I'm just looking for yes or no's in the comment section. Did God say, "Go and sin no more"? This is very vital. Okay. So yes, right? We've read it. That's what he said. Did he mean it? Another yes or no. Did he mean it? Okay. Now, like I said, we will get back to Joshua in a minute, but this is revolving around Joshua's ability to listen and not doubt God's word. This is why we're doing this. How many of you have witnessed people read that verse and not try, intently tell you that it does not mean what it says? How many people will tell you that it does not mean what it says? Right? Okay. Now, I'm going to read for you what somebody breaks it down to mean. Okay? Now, this is my problem with theology. You can be so much of a thinker that you shut your brain off. Just just saying, okay? So here's what they say. See if I can get this a little bigger. There. Okay. Is it possible to never sin again? Overall, a life without sin is not possible this side of eternity. All people have been plagued by sin since the fall of Adam and Eve. Sin does not miraculously vanish from our lives upon belief in the gospel, but wages war against our desire to obey God's command. Now, last time I checked, that was exactly the opposite of what Christ said his life accomplishes. Now, hear me out. When you make accommodations for sin, you allow your mind to believe that it is normal, that in a new life, the old life is still normal. And they would take verses like they were starting to quote the whole Paul statement of, I find this law at work. And we've been over this before, mind you, with the whole concept of living in the flesh does not mean kowtowing to it. Having a war waged against something does not mean you lose. Someone putting up opposition to you does not mean that you give in to the opposition. In fact, it's the complete opposite. It's a test of your position. And if your position, where you say you're supposed to be, is unconquerable, then how can you tell me that the verse where it says sin no more is inaccurate? One of two things has to be true: God's word's a lie, or God's word's the truth. Many of us don't want to take a Joshua approach to God. We don't want to listen to what he said, believe it, live like it's true. It's a tough thing for us. It's a tough thing. A lot of us see the flesh and sin as reactionary. We indulge, we react with repentance. We indulge, we react in repentance. We don't want to see it as a fight. We always go at this thing as a hindsight result thing. What do I mean? We've already given our mind the idea that it's normal to sin. I just don't sin as often, or I don't do big sins anymore, or I don't do that particular kind of sin, or the biggest sin I used to do, I don't do anymore, but I still have small sin that I do. We tell our minds, we tell to ourselves that it's that portion of life is normal. That is how it will always be. And we consider certain actions sin and certain actions not sin, and we consider certain actions big sin and certain actions small sin. And we may not say it out loud, but that's how we consider it. Like pedophilia is a big sin. Losing your cool, not that big of a sin. We could probably call it a sin. Still, it's still anger, but it's not. It's not like pedophilia. Anyone who tells you that they put those two in the same category is lying to you. We, by nature, put a different twist on every sin. It's look, it's just true. Because we rationalize the small stuff. A day-to-day problem is just a problem, but a day-to-day sin is something big. I keep asking people to give me the answer to this question. Is Christ's life built with an allowance for sin? That's all I would love to know. Is Christ's life built with an allowance for sin? Now remember, children of Israel, the battle was going to be taking place. The rule was before then, no sin among you. A member took goods that was tainted. The result was loss in the battle. Achan eventually got killed. If Christ's life has a requirement for victory, and you notice that you keep failing, what does that tell you? Is it the insufficiency of Christ's life? Or is it your disobedience that's bringing stuff into the battle that's causing you to lose? If his life has no room for sin, how can you say you have his life and continue to sin? I would just love to know how that's possible. So this is why I mean that either we take him by his word and believe it or we don't. Many of us don't. Hence why we continue living a certain way even after we say we've been saved. Because we don't actually call that disobedience. We termed it human nature. We call it nature. It's natural. It's not disobedience, and it's not really sin. It's human nature. And I look at people like Joshua. Joshua did what many of us should do, which is observe, right? He saw how things were with Moses. He saw how things were with the children of Israel. He witnessed it all. He got to see the fruition of God's promise. Our goal is to see that. The benefit we have is that we get to enter into the promise fulfilled. We don't have to wait. We enter into the promise fulfilled. Now, the new heaven, new earth that's coming, I get that. But the promise fulfilled of us being saved with no sacrifice needed on our behalf for us to do, that is fulfilled. We step into an already finished work. And us with a finished work, we don't have the kind of faith that Joshua had to just take God at his word. We have it easier than anyone in history. And we still try to find a way to excuse our behavior and sin. because we can't help it. We can't help it. I don't know exactly how we got to the point where we gave the reasoning to ourselves that our human nature is stronger than Christ's nature. But we've managed it. I keep going back to the form of godliness, but denying its power. You want his title, but you don't want to have his power because you don't believe it's possible, even though he told you he gave it to you. Um, it actually was a conversation that was had. How many times should I forgive my brother? And Jesus says 70 times 7. It's not that God forgives us that many times. I think we confuse forgiveness with confession. Hear by the way. Um, the blood is supposed to be your covering at all times. You don't wash it off and then go put it back on and wash it off and go put it back on. That's not how the blood works. It's not like a suit. It should be, like I keep telling you, it's a location. And if God placed you there, why would you leave? God doesn't forgive us over and over and over. His blood is forgiveness. It is a natural state of forgiveness. Our purpose is to dwell there. We refuse to. And every time we don't, we think somehow if we just confess now, we're going to get back into the blood. See, then you're telling me that it's possible to leave the blood. So for those who think once saved, always saved, then which one is it? Because usually the ones that say you're once saved, always saved allow for sin. And if there's no sin in the blood, how are you going to get sin? And then I don't get that. The math doesn't math for me. God's life either is forgiveness in action or it's not. We love to give ourselves the out, the mobility to go back and forth. We just look for any avenue to get out and come back in and get out and come back in and get out. Show me where that's allowed. Show me where that is the human condition, where the blood affords us to step out and step back in anytime we want. Where is that anywhere in scripture? See, unlike Joshua, we don't want to read the whole thing. We read part of it and take that and go with it. When he said his blood is sufficient, we think it's inefficient. And it's not enough. And we have to keep applying it like some sort of ointment. Okay, hear me out. Let's start this point here. You are a sinner. Okay? You come and you are introduced to God. And he tells you that your sin is deplorable to him. He cannot be where it is, but he can pull you from it and place you in a location that he can be with you there, stay with you there, see you justified. And that's the only location that he can witness you and embrace you. Your next statement out of your mouth is, well, I'm not that bad. Or, I have such a long way to go to undo the things that I have done. Or, I am a sinner. Or, thank you for forgiving me every day. I dare say that you see the blood as insufficient. You see the blood as insufficient. And as long as you see the blood that way, you will make accommodations for the flesh. The flesh will always have a role in your life. It'll always find an excuse to act up, big way or small way. It will find a way to stay present while giving you the delusion that it's not. And man, oh man, do we love delusion. We love delusion. It's great stuff. It's great stuff. Uh, 1,000,000% yes. 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 It is tossing pearls before swine. Yes. I listen, some people choose the devil. They just choose the devil. You have to understand that some people just choose the devil. Everyone on this earth has a choice to make. Beyonce has made that choice. Jay-Z has made that choice. All of these people have made the choice to follow the devil, and that is their choice. Now, mind you, if you make the choice to follow the devil, you've already entertained the option of following God, and you have chosen. I am not going to pray for you. You have made that choice. I will never stop praying that God's will be done. And his work of who he is all over this place. It's everywhere for them to see. But they have chosen the same way the people at Noah's time saw him working and he told them. They saw, they chose. The same way Pharaoh, he saw, he chose. Every last one of us has a choice to make, and some of us make it. If I pray for God's will to be done, he will do what he has to do on their end. It is still their choice to follow. He does not coerce, he does not force, he does not bully. You picked. Which is why I have no problem calling these people evil, because I see who they follow. It's really that simple. It's all throughout the Old Testament, all throughout the New. There's a marker, a clear marker. The same way Moses chose, Joshua chose, David chose, Bathsheba, Nathan chose. Choices are there to be made, and some pick it. Some pick right, some pick wrong. And some worship the devil. I'm not praying for those people. Mm-mm. They picked their camp. They've picked. And like I said, if you've come to the fruition, the knowledge of the devil, you've already had your encounter with God and chosen. Should I feel bad for them? It's not for me to feel bad. He wants all to come, but he knows all won't. Not all will. People could have prayed for Jezebel, but there was no turning for Jezebel. Even God allowed others to just go. Pharaoh said no, said no, said no. Fine. No, it is. Do you think any amount of praying would have brought Pharaoh back from the edge? No. Heck, Abraham, what if you find 30, 25, 20, 15, 10? If you find that, sure. But I already know. I already know they've chosen. Abraham, they've chosen. They have decided already. No amount of pleading on your end, Abraham, is going to change the outcome. They've chosen. I cannot live any longer wishing for something that somebody doesn't want. They don't want it. And that's their choice. I'm not saying it's okay, but it's their choice. And the end result they will have to live with or die with. In any case, our obedience should be like that of Joshua. If God said it, I'm doing it. I don't care how difficult it is, I'm doing it. Point blank. I think many scholars exist today to find reasons for mankind to do what mankind wants to do. I'm dead serious about it. I really do believe that today scholars are simply around to try and give mankind the softest journey to God possible, not realizing that they're not taking anyone anywhere near God. But as we'll see tomorrow, sometimes when we want what we want and God wants what he wants, and the two clash, and you say you follow him, he will put you through some things to force you into proper decisions. Now, he won't force Joe Schmo who don't know him. But for those who are called to his purpose, trust and believe me that he will allow, even cause some things to take place to snap you out of stuff, to bring you to a place where you need to be. I know this firsthand. He will drop a storm on you to sober you up when he knows your heart. And we will talk in depth about that tomorrow. Joshua got to witness the promise of God fulfilled. He went through all the difficulties with Israel, the escape from Egypt, the Red Sea, the pillar of fire, the rebellion, the golden calf, the Ten Commandments, the smiting of the rock, the battle of Ai, the renewing of the covenant. He witnessed all of it. And the one thing that God told him from the get go when he became leader, he held on to the very end. Be steadfast, be strong, be courageous. Everyone has a choice, Brenda. Everyone has a choice. I understand that it's difficult. I do. My oldest, and I've told you guys this story before. He was on a pathway to absolute destruction. Absolute destruction. You could see it. It was tangible, it was palpable, it was there. It was happening, it was going to happen. His mother and I were on the end of our wits. There was nothing more we could do. We saw it happening before our eyes. We couldn't stop it. Good parenting, bad parenting, all of the parenting, none of it helped. Until I did this. And I fully did this. I said, you know what? I'm done trying to fix. We're done. If you gonna save this kid, that's on you. I'm not bothering trying to. I can't fix it, first of all. I have nothing more I can offer. I have nothing more I can do. I am done trying. This is yours. It's all yours. I got no more hands in it. I'm done. When I relinquished my version of Caleb, God got to encounter Caleb on his own. I didn't pray for Caleb to come to God. I didn't do any of that. I just simply told God, I am done. You know better. You can figure this out. All yours. I won't even intervene. I'm not going to say a word about it. I'm done. With me and my wishes out the way, God did what he had to do for my son. And when he grabbed a hold of my son, he grabbed a hold of my son. And my son didn't have the excuse that my father did this, my mom did this. It was unequivocal to him that God spoke. The exact same sensation that Joshua knew when God said something, my son Caleb knew when God said something. It wasn't my voice. It wasn't his mom's voice. It wasn't his voice. It was a voice he had never heard before telling him something. And I will never listen to fools, which is what they are, fools who tell me God does not speak today. Those people are blasphemous fools who don't know God. Any clown world idiot fool dummy that tells you that God no longer speaks today is a blasphemous fool, a blasphemous one. I don't care how educated they are. I don't care how many doctorates they have. I don't care how many seminaries they've been to. I do not care. If you tell me that God don't speak, you don't know God. You are following some other thing that ain't God. I'm not telling you what he says. I'm telling you that he says something. And his voice is very definite. He's not giving me some New Testament when he talks. He's not giving me some new revelation when he talks, but he's speaking directly to my situation. But they will love to tell you that he doesn't speak, and he speaks only through the Bible and only through his chosen people in leadership positions. Only the wise among you can translate what God really wants. That's control. That's control. Which is why I keep telling you to go straight to the source. Anything I say, I tell you directly right away. Talk to God about it. Take it straight to him. Don't believe me. I don't want you believing me. I need you believing him. So anything you hear me say that seems to make, oh, that sounds good. I don't want it to sound good. It must be right. So go talk to him about it, and you stay there till you get the answer, if it really matters that much to you. Be like Joshua. Be like Joshua and listen. Be like Joshua and listen. Now, tomorrow, when we deal with the storm, we're going to be dealing specifically with a certain person as our base story. There is one particular person that we'll be talking specifically about. And it will be the story of Jonah. Because there is a specific statement in there that I think for a long time I just glossed over. I sincerely think I've simply just glossed over this thing. And so I'm going to give you the verse. I'll read it so you can be prepared for tomorrow. But I think I just glossed over this completely in my entire living until recently. I heard it, but I never really paid it much attention. I was just so focused on what the whale and Nineveh. But I this one line I completely just left out of my memory bank. This is what it says. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it because its wickedness has come before me. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. This is the part that missed me. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. In my mind, all I heard was there was a storm. Now you can be honest with yourself, if that's what you thought too. It's just a storm. There was a storm. That's all I was ever reading. That the storm showed up, and when they threw him into the water, yeah, I glossed over that. And it popped something into my head that was both groundbreaking for me because it pretty much echoed my story, but it also shocked me that I missed it. I was blown away that I missed it. So we'll talk about what that actually looks like, what it meant, that particular thing, what it really means. And maybe somebody will get something from it. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Maybe. So show up tomorrow. That's what we'll be talking about. That. Again, I know it's not a whale. It was a big fish. I'm just telling you what the stories you hear. In case someone says, "Well, it wasn't a whale," it was a big fish. Okay, I don't. And the biggest fish we know about is a whale. Okay, I'm just. Anyway, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Too Strong will be dropping a couple of videos today, so look out for them. Really good ones too. Some good conversation pieces. Don't forget, sign up is still open for the event next year. I had a couple of people reach out and want to know whether or not they can come. Like I keep saying, it's open for everyone to come. Just understand, again, the target audience are families, both struggling and thriving. Okay? Struggling and thriving. Speaking of which, I need to reach out to a certain individual I have not spoken to in a while here, before I forget, because I will forget. Okay, because if I don't remember now, I'll perpetually forget. Okay, so we'll talk about these things tomorrow. Scrolling below, again, talk to God first, then do. If there are other places that you have to direct it somewhere else. That's fine. I'm just saying, talk to him first. And he'll fill his ministry spots where he needs it. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow we will be dealing with something a little more close to home for some of us. And we'll see you then. In the meantime and in between time, wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself and no way